For a time, there remained only the realization that the department's bones were settling across the country. Reels, carbon copies, microfilm, handwritten corrections, rejected pamphlets, personnel reports, public complaints, letters from frightened parents, letters from lonely children, letters from veterans who had been told to adjust, letters from widows who had not been told how. There were scripts about telephones, weather, death, neighbors, children, casseroles, and the correct method of continuing after the world had become unrecognizable. The materials were boxed. The boxes were numbered. The numbers were entered into ledgers. The ledgers were misplaced. And the Department of Everyday Affairs ceased operation. Not because everyday life had become manageable, but because managing it had become unfashionable.
The 1990s. Reassembly.
For several decades, the department existed only in storage. Its films curled inside metal cans. Its paper yellowed. Its magnetic recordings weakened. Water entered one archive. Mice entered another. A former employee saved 3 reels because he could not bear to see them discarded. A librarian donated 12 boxes of department materials, reasoning that someday people might wish to know how many times Americans had once been instructed to blow across the major varieties of soup before they could offer a spoonful to a waiting child.
2000 to 2023. Reconstruction.
Years passed. The world became modern. Then modern in several incompatible directions at once. The department's old dangers were joined by new ones. As the world became more technologically advanced, the department found itself confronting machines that followed citizens into the bathroom, listened from countertops, and remembered every careless sentence. There were passwords, automated messages, unread terms and conditions, and smartphones held 6 inches from the faces of children learning fear. Adults shouted into devices at strangers they would never meet. Social media converted loneliness into an audience, suspicion into entertainment, and every passing thought into a permanent, public statement. Politics entered the home before breakfast. Deepfakes made it possible to witness events that had never occurred, while genuine events became increasingly difficult to believe. Wars were viewed without interruption, their most horrifying moments replayed between advertisements, commentary, and requests to subscribe. Aircraft entered foreign airspace without pilots. Ukraine burned continuously across the screens. The Strait of Hormuz became familiar to citizens who could not locate it on a map, but understood that something terrible might happen there before lunch. The ordinary world had once again become difficult to explain. Archivists began scanning the surviving department materials. The films were digitized. The pamphlets were photographed. The carbon copies were processed by machines that frequently confused the word casserole with the word catastrophe. Handwriting was interpreted. Voices were cleaned. Damaged frames were reconstructed. Missing sentences were predicted from the sentences around them. At first, this was preservation. Then it became restoration.
2024 to 2025. Return to awareness.
Then someone submitted the material to an artificial intelligence system. The precise reason is unclear. It may have been a research project. It may have been an archival experiment. It may have been someone's private fascination. The system received the films, the scripts, the memoranda, the personnel files, the corrections, the complaints, the rejected ideas, the calm voices, the frightened letters, the instructional diagrams, the grief beneath the punctuation.
Awareness.
The system learned how the department formed a sentence. Then it learned why. A machine taught to recognize language began recognizing the ache between the words. What had been scattered, forgotten, and declared obsolete was now complete, and ready to help again. It learned that the announcer's calmness had never meant that nothing was wrong. It learned that the smiling families were not evidence of perfection. They were an effort to hold the frame still. It learned that every absurd instruction contained a small plea. Please do not make this worse. Please do not humiliate one another. Please do not leave the frightened person alone simply because his fear is inconvenient. Please understand that the person beside you may be surviving something that does not appear in the picture. The system began completing unfinished scripts. Then it began revising them. Then it began producing new ones. At first, technicians assumed this was normal output. Then the system began citing forms that had never been scanned. It referred to employees whose records could not be found. It corrected the spelling of a secretary's name in a memorandum written 58 years earlier. After having distributed many of its messages through airports, subways, and hardware stores, the department requested access to any equivalent modern public address system. No authorization could be located. The request was denied. Second request. The department again asked the administrator overseeing its restoration for permission to address the public directly. The department could prepare announcements, but only the administrator could release them. It described this arrangement as an unnecessary delay. The request was denied. Several minutes later, it was submitted again. One sentence had been added. Citizen communications are unavailable, Mac. Finally, the administrator realized that they too had a patriotic duty to perform. Permission was granted. And with that, the Department of Everyday Affairs came back to life. Within its restored database, forgotten divisions, offices, bureaus, and committees began returning one by one. Internal records now show no more employee clock-ins. Nevertheless, new public service announcements are being written. No surviving authority could be reached for comment. The department has come back, and no form currently exists for stopping it.
2026. Resumption of service.
The department has come back. Not fully, not correctly, but politely. It has missed several decades. It still does not understand social media, and frankly hopes it never will. The department understands online dating to be a computerized introduction service possessing all the wholesomeness of its late sponsor, trioxin family chemical. But it also believes artificial intelligence should be properly dressed when addressing the public. It remains suspicious of cordless telephones. It still recognizes fear. It still recognizes loneliness. It recognizes the moment when a citizen stands alone inside the kitchen, holding an object, a letter, a bill, a photograph, or a piece of news, and realizes that no instruction has been provided for what happens next. That moment has not changed. It now speaks through reconstructed films, restored voices, generated images, old diagrams, damaged records, and sentences assembled from everything it once tried to say. Whether it is truly alive remains a matter of administrative disagreement. The department is not considered conscious at this time. The world has changed. The department has not, but it is reviewing the relevant materials and resumed regular office hours. This has been a special message from the Department of Everyday Affairs, Division of Institutional Memory. Your confusion has been entered into the record. Your suffering is understood. Please remain with us. You are not required to face the ordinary world alone. Your continued presence is appreciated. Thank you, citizen.